Welcome to All Things Retreat Podcast. I'm Holly Porter, your host and CEO of Retreat R&R. With over 25 years of experience in designing transformative retreats, I'm here to share insights and inspiration to help you create extraordinary experiences. Whether you're a pro or just starting out, you'll find valuable ideas here. Enjoy the ride. Let's dive in. Hello and welcome to the show, everybody. We're here with another fabulous guest, but this time we have a little different of a twist. We are talking legal. So listen in. This is going to be one you don't want to miss. In fact, we're putting this in a part 1 and a part 2 because it's going to be so juicy. You're going to get so much information as a retreat leader listening in that you will not want to miss it. So my guest is Ed Gehres, and he is a business attorney, an advisor, and former C-suite executive who helps founders and businesses owners grow, acquire, and exit companies strategically. With more than 25 years of experience across technology, manufacturing, transportation, and professional services, Ed works at the intersection of legal strategy, deal making, and operational leadership. As the founder of Nave Law, did I say that right?
Navi. Short for navigation.
Okay, Navi Law. He advises entrepreneurs and executive teams on mergers and acquisitions, business structuring, contracts, governance, and long-term value creation. His work centers on helping small and mid-market companies think like investors, building scalable, sellable businesses while protecting enterprise value along the way. Ed is also the author of Acquire Before You Exit, a practical guide for owners who want to grow through acquisitions and position their companies for stronger valuations and successful exits. Sorry about that. He brings pragmatic, operator-level perspective and conversations about ownership, leverage, and the future of the middle market. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Well, we're excited to have you because this is a piece of the pie that I think is missing so much in this industry. And before we get into asking you some questions, I want to talk just a little bit about the International Retreat Association because we are super close to launching the membership, which is very affordable for all retreat leaders. There'll be some tiers later, but we're going to be launching the founder members, which is only 100 of them available, and then the basic membership. And you are part of our head honchos, which is what I call the leadership council of the International Retreat Association, Ed. So we're super excited about that. And you'll be able to be there for all that legal stuff, keep us out of trouble, and hopefully everyone else.
Happy to help.
Well, I don't know if you can handle everyone else, but you know what I mean.
I know what you mean.
So that's happening. And so listen in, everybody, for announcements for that. Watch social media. It'll probably be nausea coming out on there because we want to make sure we get the word out, because with 2 to 3 million estimated retreat leaders, there is not an association created for this industry ever. So, and if it is, I couldn't find it. They're doing a horrible job marketing. So here we are, and we're creating it. We're building the professional standards that don't exist. We're building up on the right values and things. And so it will definitely be something, if you're in the ecosystem of retreats, you will want to belong to. So that's my commercial for the day. Now let's get to our legal stuff. That's why we're having 2 shows. All right, you ready?
Absolutely.
Okay, so many retreat leaders don't think of themselves as building a company. What's the risk of that mindset when it comes to long-term value?
When you don't think that you're building a company and when you don't think that you need to scale it any bigger than yourself, it's like this artificial limiter that you put on yourself. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy, for lack of a better way of saying it. You really do stop yourself from getting opportunities by not planning to be able to take advantage of those opportunities. Just from like a legal, from like a contract perspective, from like a business formation, when you're first starting your company, it's one of those things that I see all the time where people will say, oh, well, it's just me and my partner. And I'm like, well, do you want to get bigger than that? Do you want to do more? Do you think you might interact with other companies? Do you think you might take on investors? All of those things, the more that you plan ahead for it, the more that you have the mechanisms, the faster you're able to react. the more capable you are of actually taking that next step.
Yes, for sure. What would you say are some of the key legal aspects that operators should make sure that they have covered?
Some of what needs to go into retreat contracts or retreat agreements, it has to do with, the different liabilities. It has to do with, making sure that people understand what they're in for. Different retreats have different themes. They have different things that you're going to be doing. There may be different activities. There may be, different locations that you're going to be in. All of those different aspects you need to be thinking about, you know, where are people going to be? What are people going to be doing? What's the experience that they're going to be having? Who are the people that they're going to be interacting with? And what, and this is one of the things that sometimes drives me crazy about law, what are the things that could go wrong, right? Those are some of the things that you need to be thinking about, but you also need to be thinking about, how can I make it so that when people are interacting with me, when people are signing up to be part of my retreat, that they know exactly what to expect and they know exactly how much it's going to cost and what they can get out of it.
Oh, absolutely. So, okay, let's talk about a pitfall that many businesses operators fall into when it comes to creating the contracts for the business. I know we were talking about it before the show. Let's talk about that. That's something very important.
I think one of the things that people do most frequently and that I see very, very often is that people like simple contracts. And I've had clients come to me before and they're like, listen, it's only 4 or 5 pages and I really love it because it's simple. And I'll look at it and I'll be like, yeah, it's simple, but it doesn't protect you. There's a lot of things that could go wrong. Not only that, but I don't think that it covers everything that you're actually doing, which means that you may be doing things essentially for free, or people may have expectations that don't get met because of how this is put together. And I think that there's a very delicate balance between having something that's simple to read and easy to understand versus having something that is too lightweight to protect you or to properly inform your clients what they're going to be getting and what and how.
Yeah.
So that's one of the biggest pitfalls, is to just go get myself a nice simple contract. I'll have ChatGPT generate a contract. Trust me, ChatGPT can't generate your contracts. And then one of the things that we talked about, I have a couple of litigation friends that I don't do litigation. I don't go to court. I do all of the documentation and stuff. But one of them was telling me at lunch one day, he goes, Ed, if people spent a few $1,000s on what you do, they wouldn't be spending tens of thousands of dollars on the court cases that I have to help them with because they got in trouble.
Yeah. Yeah, so
So,
true. Yeah. Well, and it's kind of just one of those things, cost of doing business, that needs to be a line item in your business plan. You just need to plan
absolutely.
on doing that, especially if you're doing retreats for a business.
Absolutely. If you're doing retreats for businesses, they expect to see a little bit of sophistication. I also think that that's one of the ways in which people kind of self-defeat as well, is that they do try to do everything themselves. I think at one of the things that we went to recently, somebody was talking about I have to do everything myself. I can't remember what she called it. That is one of those other things that people have to be able to step out of and just go, you know what? I'm not an expert at everything. I'm really, really great at holding retreats. I'm really, really great at interacting with people. I'm really, really great at planning and executing these things. But when it comes to the legal documents, I need an attorney who knows what to do. When it comes to the financial aspects and actually tracking the costs and doing all of the accounting and keeping things straight so that my business operates properly, I need an accountant who knows what they're doing, and et cetera. So I just think that that's one of those things that is very, very important for folks to realize that, hey, it does take a village.
Yeah. That's for sure. It's part of your team. And we shouldn't do things alone. I tell myself that all the time. Like, who can take this off my plate? And when money's not an object, it's like, I just want to be a check writer. Like, write the check for speed. Speed
Right?
makes
Yeah.
matters at some point. But when you're starting out, that's easier said than done sometimes. And I agree, they just don't take
Absolutely.
shortcuts in the wrong areas.
Yeah.
What are some of the things that you can do to help reduce how much you need an attorney and therefore how much money you spend on one?
Yeah, this is a really important thing, and it's something that I try to help folks without folks. I try to help people with this every time that I work with somebody new, and that is doing some of the preparation on your own. It doesn't necessarily mean going out to Chat GPT or Claude and having it write you a contract and then say, hey, I've got it almost done and I just need you to review it. But it does mean potentially interacting with one of those tools to help you think about the stuff that needs to go into an agreement. Because a lot of the things that happen on a retreat, you're the one who's coming up with it. You're the one who's planning it out. You're the one who has the vision for what you want to accomplish and what you want your retreat attendees to experience.
Yeah.
So, what is that process, and thinking through the process and how are things going to go, and knowing what those different steps are. What are the specific services that we're actually going to do? What are the different facilities that we're going to be in, and what are we going to be doing when we get there? So much of what makes a contract a good contract is the stuff that comes from the client's head. It's the stuff that the client knows that the attorney can't possibly know until they talk to you. And those are the things that you can do to prepare yourself and to get them put together such that when you talk to the attorney and you have some of these things put together, hey, here are the exact services that I'm going to do. Here's the people who are going to be involved. These are the facilities that we're going to be using, and some specific information about those facilities. Hey, it's a cabin in the middle of the woods, there's, outdoor or whatever, right? Anything that's important for people to know and to be able to have those disclosures on there. I help somebody who does like a wedding events chapel, and it's not really even a chapel. It's a big, it's like a huge mansion that they've turned into an event center. And it's the same kind of thing. It's like, listen, you've got folks who are going to be coming in overnight. You've got, all of the prep things. You've got all of these vendors that are coming in and bringing different things. All of that needs to be in your contract. And by the way, it's not one contract. You've got vendor contracts, you've got overnight contracts, you've got the contract for the event itself, and there's rules and regulations that you need to put together. There's a whole bunch of stuff that you really kind of need in order to truly have everything put together. And again, in terms of saving money, the more of that you think through and that you come up with ahead of time. This particular client sent me their draft agreement and they sent me their draft rules and regulations, and it wasn't complete, and there was a lot of stuff that needed to be figured out and put in order and put into more of a good flow, so to speak, so that people, when they look at the agreement, they're like, okay, this makes sense. Okay, these are the legal terms, I've got it, I can sign.
Right.
That's really important. But having that stuff done ahead of time will shorten the amount of time that you need to spend to get the agreement put together.
I agree. And then when you're on the other end, make sure you're reading those contracts, because we were having that chat before too. I got stuck in a contract that was ironclad. There was no way I was getting out of it.
Yeah.
And I had to suck it up and pay for it every month for a whole year. And it was like, it was tough. And so I think it works both ways for sure. But okay, so if someone's hosting retreats, let's go a little deeper on this as part of their business. Okay. What are the first legal or structural pieces that they should have in place?
So you need to have your infrastructure for your business in place, and that includes any agreements that you have with venues. So in other words, and these are some of the things that you have to get the contracts reviewed for. So if you're having a retreat, for example, I threw a conference one time and it was at the Woodlands down in Houston. The very first thing that you get back from the Woodlands is a very thick agreement that says, here's what our facilities are, and here's all the legal obligations, and here's how much it's going to cost you. And oh, by the way, if you don't cancel by this date, you have to pay this much. If you don't cancel by this date, you have to pay this much. And that was something like a 40-page contract that we got from them. Those are the kinds of things, that's like your core. Let's get all of the things, in order to hold this retreat. First, we need to know where we're doing it, who we're working with, all of those things. That's kind of your basis. That's your prep level. Then once you have your prep level, you can build your retreat contract for your attendees on top of that, because then you have all of the details and they're all provided potentially by other people and you've simply had to get them reviewed. Now you can say, listen, here's the stack of all the stuff that I'm working with. And the attorneys can go through that, look at it and say, great, I know exactly how to build your retreat contract so that you're covered through all of these other agreements, because a lot of those agreements will also force you to say, yes, I'm going to make sure that the people who come to my event, who come to my retreat, are going to obey the rules. Well, if you haven't reviewed those very carefully, you're not going to know to put that into your attendee contract.
Yeah.
So a lot of having that basis set up is really important.
Right. So retreat leaders are mostly our listeners on this show. And I don't want to be scaring them half to death because I guarantee you some of them are wanting to crap their pants about right now. We're not doing this to scare you. Well, kinda. I shouldn't say that. It's mostly to help you understand how important the legalities of things are. So I teach people to not go start a new business by doing retreats. If you love what you're doing and you're good at what you're doing, I teach people add retreats as an additional source of income, especially like people that have coaching and consulting and are offering these high ticket value packages and they're not really selling them like they used to. It's gotten to be a lot more challenging. There's a lot more noise in the world. And it's just take that instead of doing what you're doing now that's not working and add a retreat source of income to that. So bring people in anywhere from 2.5 days to a week, whatever you decide is going to work. But if you know, like, and trust them at the end of that, if you've spent a lot of time with them, if you want to work with them, they know if they want to work with you. It's a lot easier to drop $10, $20, $5,000 with a high ticket, continue to work with me package at a retreat. And so you can see the value add. Are you doing these retreats? Don't be doing them to break even because you're not even probably putting your time that you've spent in there when you're breaking even. So those are the kinds of conversations we have on this podcast, is to help you realize that, hey, otherwise it's just a girl's trip. It's like, if you're going to do it as a business, then treat it as a business. And maybe if a lot of this stuff scares you, bring in the concierge services that do all the logistics for you. And you just show up in your zone of genius and you teach what you know and love and leave all this stuff to everybody else.
Yeah, partner up with an events company. Like one of the guys that I work with, he has an events company here in Las Vegas, and he's the guy who goes out and does the contracts with the places. He's the one who basically brings the team in who's going to do it. He'll go out and find the food and beverage and the transportation companies and make sure people are getting to the right places at the right time. That's what he does, but he doesn't facilitate the meetings. He
Right.
doesn't get in there and actually help people, get them to do the stuff that they came to do. He's the guy in the background that's making all of the other stuff move. And that's a great partnership to have, because that's one agreement for you to worry about. And then the other agreement is with the people who you come with. One of the other things that I wanted to point out, we were talking about not wanting to scare folks. At the same time, I think one of the things that people always discount and that they don't really understand is that if you're a participant and you're being asked to spend a few hundred, a few thousand on a retreat, and you get what my father used to call them Mickey Mouse agreements,
Oh, yeah.
right? Where it's like, something that you might see, it looks like it's out of a coloring book, or it's just
Right.
doesn't look professional.
Yeah.
That reflects on you. Whereas if you have a professional looking contract, something that looks serious, the people who are coming to your retreat, they're serious participants. They know what they're in for. They know that they're signing up with the company with a retreat organizer who has done their homework and has everything lined out. And they're going to feel much more comfortable signing that agreement than something that doesn't look like it was put together properly.
Especially if they don't know you before that. Yeah. You're
It's a
new to
huge
them.
credibility boost.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, the marketing piece of it and the branding piece of it goes really along with the legality stuff. It's just a
Absolutely.
complete package. But
Yeah.
yeah, there's so much to consider. So it's not to scare, it's to protect. That's what
That's
we
right.
want to do. And that's what's cool about the association. We're going to have all of these people that have agreed to these professional standards, and there'll also be people that we vet personally as we go along, that you'll be able to say, oh, well, they already know. Like, I'm not going to back anyone unless I've used them personally, or somebody in my leadership council has used them personally. So I want people to understand that. Like, it's about integrity for me, and I want it done right, just like you do. So, how can retreat leaders turn what feels maybe a one off event into something that actually builds an enterprise value? So you've got that legalities, you're going there. I mean, I'm hoping that retreat leaders aren't just wanting a one-off event. I'm hoping it's something that you build the structure in. So any
I,
suggestions on
I
that?
love that question. I love that question because it also goes to the contracts we're talking about. So many times I will have folks come to me and they're like, listen, I just need a contract for this one thing. And I'll be like, well, what is it that you do? What are the different things that you want to be able to do? And it'll be more of a situation where I look at them and I go, don't create a contract or an agreement for every single thing that you do.
Mm,
Put together an agreement that is going to cover everything that you do and that is flexible enough for you to use this multiple times. It saves you a lot of money on the upfront costs of creating this thing, but it's also something that now you can use flexibly and you know exactly what to plug into the blanks in order to use it for every different thing that you do. So I really do think that that's part of it. I also think that, it's one of those things that when you start to think about repeatable processes, when you start to think about, even, hey, can I use this same contract form again?
yeah,
Okay, well, what are the other things that I might want to do? What are the other things that I have the skill set or that I have the expertise that, I can help folks with this, or, that I can set these things up. And those are the kinds of conversations, those are the kinds of things that when people think about it, there's so much more that they can do. There's so much more that they can accomplish. There's so many more people that they can reach and help. And
yeah.
that's where things start to get truly rewarding.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, I think it's important for if you're in it to win it for a retreat business with your company, I think creating a signature retreat, that is part of that. That could be part of your whole signature package that you're offering, that's thousands more dollars. So not only are they paying probably thousands to come to the retreat, they're paying thousands to work with you after that. And I think that's that
Yeah.
signature, that's where you would maybe you have a signature contract because it goes with your signature program and it's a repeatable thing based on where you're doing the event. Though, if you're doing international events, maybe you're going to different countries, you've got to adjust it probably for each country just a little bit. Let's talk about that for a minute. How do you feel like these retreat leaders that are taking people international, what do you think the contracts need? Are they different?
Yes, they absolutely can be because the laws are different everywhere. And in fact, one of the things that people a lot of times forget about when we're here in the United States is that every state has different laws
Mm,
as well. So there's a lot of times that you have to be careful about, and it's one of the reasons why I was emphasizing the where. Where is your retreat going to be held? Because so often that's what generates the jurisdictional aspects, the regulatory aspects, the licenses, the permits that you might need. Any of those types of things are going to be based upon where it's at. From an international perspective, that can be even more complex because different places that you go are going to have different rules, different laws, and it will go from everything from like the where you are and the what you're covering
yeah,
to, potentially how you're storing their data, the registration forms, what information you're getting back from them as part of it.
right.
So there's a lot of different things would need to go into that, and that's a lot of that has to do with the where, like you're saying. So
Yeah, I know Florida. I'm not super rehearsed, so I hope I don't speak out of turn by saying that, but I think they have it where like you have to go through a travel agency or something to book stuff. Because I know one of the leaders in the industry, she started her own
mhm.
travel agency because of that. She was having these, and I don't know, but it's a Florida thing. So yeah, you definitely need to do your research before. And I think a lot of people just don't realize how much goes into a lot of these. And when people are spending thousands of dollars, there's a lot of people that can't understand why are retreats costing so much. Well, look at what we're talking about. Look at what the investment is to just do retreats if you're doing it correctly and legal. So I think it works both ways,
Well,
for
and,
sure.
and Holly, I think that that's another one of the things, with the association that's being put together here, that, the lack of that resource for folks in the industry is, I was shocked,
Yeah,
frankly, because associations like this are exactly the reason why most of these other industries are able to do things so much more efficiently, especially cost effectively. It's because there are these resources that have been collected. There are these people who already know, you know what? I did a thing in Florida and you need to know. And
yeah,
guess what? It's right there on the association website, and you can read it and go, holy cow, am I glad I went there first.
Yeah, totally. And obviously give us a minute. We got a lot of information to gather, but we're working on it, right? We'll make sure that people, we have your back. And as we put things out there, we want suggestions. So like, those are things I hope people bring to our attention so that we can help serve at the highest level as an association. Okay, we are so out of time. I'm like way over, but we're going to come back. So everyone listening, there's a part 2. What I want to go into on part 2 with Ed is his really genius is acquisitions and selling your company. So join us back on there. So if that's something you're interested in, come back and we will be on the next show. Till then, bye for now. Thanks for joining us on this episode of All Things Retreat. We hope you're leaving with new ideas, fresh inspiration, and the motivation to take your retreats to the next level. Don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review. It helps us grow and reach more retreat leaders like you. And if you have any questions, topics you'd like us to cover, or just want to say hello, send us an email at info@weretreatrnr.com. Follow us on social media to stay connected and catch all the latest updates. Until next time, remember, great retreats start with great intentions. Let's make them extraordinary, one step at a time. Thinking about hosting a retreat? Before you dive in, let's make sure you're really ready. Grab your free Are You Retreat Ready checklist and find out if you've got everything in place from your purpose and pricing to your audience and agenda. Don't guess. Get clear. This quick checklist will show you exactly where you stand and what you need to make your retreat a success. Click the link below in the show notes to grab your gift and take the first step toward hosting with confidence.